Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a pretty crazy plan here from Donald Trump, and crazy in the good way. No taxes if you earn less than $150,000. Then if you earn over $150,000, let's say you earn 170, you would only be taxed on the 20K from 150 to 170. So the first 150K, zero taxes. And many people wondering, is this realistic? Is it possible? What is the hidden component that will make up the lost revenue? Is it the tariffs? Because we know Trump's been talking about, and other Republican governors have said, maybe no property taxes, possibly no state income taxes, use the revenue that's generated through the tariffs. And we always knew the tariffs were going to be a short-term loss because they were going to cause economic turmoil and uncertainty. And that's what caused the stock market to have a little bit of turbulence. And so I've said to people, hang in there. Trump wanted inflation down. He's got it. He wants lower interest rates. He's probably going to have those on May 9th. And when you get the combination of those two things, and you're talking about the Doge dividend, $5,000 rebate tax because of just the crazy spending on USAID, this is unbelievable. When you look at what Donald Trump is trying to do for the middle class, is there any Democrat in recent memory that's ever proposed something like this? They always talk about Trump being this billionaire who's elite, who's obsessed with skimming on his taxes. He's talking about eliminating taxes. I mean, and you could hypothetically do this because this is like utilizing capitalism. People say, well, the really rich people, the top 1%, they make so much more. Well, yes, and they also get taxed way more because of what they make. So you can utilize that idea of capitalism and say, listen, if there's this much of a pay gap, does it even make sense to tax people making $75,000 a year at all? Does that even make sense? When you look at the statistics, the bottom 50% of taxpayers, in terms of how much money they make, the bottom 50%, they pay a total of 3%, or they generate a total of 3% in tax revenue. So the bottom 50% just generate only 3% because the rich people are paying for not all, but pretty much most of the taxes. So you can kind of pitch something like this, or you can severely limit the taxes for the people making under 150K. And 150K, that's not a small number. It's not like it's, oh, if you make 75K or lower, this is something that could happen. That is 150K. And the amount of people that make over 150K, it's a very small percentage, but because we have a capitalist system, there are many billionaires who pay a ton of taxes. And you've also got the idea, a hidden component of this plan. It is dealing with the overseas tax evasion by corporations where they set up the offshore accounts. And it's been estimated around $2 trillion has been lost in terms of U.S. revenue because of the overseas accounts and tax evasion. And they're going to try and get on that. You could see Howard Lutnick saying, quote, I know what his goal is. No tax for anyone making under $150,000 a year. That is what I'm working for. You see why it matters. The proposal to remove taxes for people making less than 150K per year would have an impact on the vast majority of Americans. In 2022, around 93% of Americans aged 15 and over earned less than 150K. So 93% of the population possibly paying zero taxes. The proposal would consequently massively reduce tax revenue generated from the federal government and threaten a huge increase in national debt. So this is the whole point. They want to limit the offshore tax evasion, the overseas tax evasion, and you're also talking about tariffs possibly. I mean, this is a sacrifice here that Trump is making. We knew that tariffs were going to have an initial negative effect. Tariffs over time pay off. There's a little bit of turbulence at the beginning when you implement them. Certainly when it comes to the stock market, certainly when it comes to possibly things costing more because there needs to be more domestic production because these U.S. companies are not going to want to pay the tariffs, so they're going to have to produce it themselves, which could cost more money. But the more things get adopted here in the United States, the easier the system's going to be in terms of working. They're going to be able to limit the prices through the capitalist market with competition. They're going to be able to drive those prices back down, but it's going to take time. But it's more domestic investment. And so overall, long-term tariffs, as long as you implement them properly, they are a good thing, but they have to be stuck to. Now, I'm not sure if Trump, it's hard to know if Trump really wants to stick to the tariff plan, at least when it comes to the massive tariffs on Canada. We've already got them at this point capitulating, or at least trying to go to the negotiating table and say, we want to renegotiate the 2026, or I guess the 2020 trade deal that we signed with you guys. There's supposed to be a renegotiation in 2026. They want to do it right now because they're getting crushed with all of the tariffs. And I think they realize Trump is for real on the tariffs against Canada. He wants a way to generate revenue so U.S. citizens don't have to pay taxes, especially the middle class. Again, when has a Democrat ever offered something like this to where you've got a $5,000 Doge dividend, which is basically us just taking money that was wasted on liberal NGOs and giving it to citizens as a tax rebate? This is historic stuff. If this is able to happen, or it maybe just lower taxes by 50% on people making under 150K, like lower the tax rate. You could also do that. You can see Ludnick said the federal government would counteract massive U.S. tax cuts by implementing tariffs on foreign nations and curbing overseas tax evasion, which again, they estimate they could probably get around $1.5 to $2 trillion if they're able to curb the offshore accounts. Could you imagine that? I mean, that's going after rich corporations. That's going after rich individuals. They said that Trump is obsessed with billionaires. You're talking about curbing overseas tax evasion. That's what billionaires and multimillionaires use. So Trump is going after them. That's what this says right here. So this is really, really impressive stuff. And look, if this is able to happen, or at least you're able to limit it, we've seen Trump try and attack this tax problem the middle class has had in terms of the burden. It just makes, when you have a capitalist society and you've got, which we like, people say, well, billionaires are bad. No, billionaires stimulate the economy. They generate revenue for the country. They create jobs. It's necessary when you're in a capitalist society. It's certainly better than the alternative, which is socialism, heavy socialism, or communism. It is a mixed, we do have a mixed market, but we are heavy capitalists. So when you've got something like this and you've got such a discrepancy in terms of the high earners, they already contribute so much because they're making so much more than everyone else. Why are the lower people even paying any taxes at all, or any substantial tax? You could argue, if you look at the numbers, and this has been something that Elon Musk and other rich people have tried to say, the rich people pay for the vast majority because of the discrepancy in terms of the amount of money that people make in this country, the top 1%. And people say, well, it's a bad thing, but you can also manipulate it and say, listen, why are the bottom 70% paying any taxes at this point? It doesn't make any sense, especially if you're able to curb this overseas tax evasion. You're able to generate money through these tariffs. The tariffs, listen, we'll see what happens with them. I'm not sure if Trump's going to keep them on Canada or not. I know Trump has talked about Canada becoming the 51st state. Trump's talked about Greenland. It's necessary what Trump is doing. You have to expand with the manifest destiny, and it's very key to make sure the United States stays as a global superpower. That's why expansion is necessary. That's why I've been so vocal about Trump annexing Greenland. I think Trump is pretty much done. Trump's just like, we're just going to annex them. We don't care anymore. And Trump's trying to be nice because he's a nice man. But he's a lot nicer than I am. He's a sweet old man, Trump. But yeah, this is just crazy. If this is able to happen, and it can happen because you're going to be able to save the money with the tariffs. You've already implemented tariffs on China. Now they're starting to cry about it. China is, you see, they're like, Trump needs to stop doing this. Well, Trump implemented them in 2017, 2018. They were an extreme success. Biden kept them on China. And so we're limiting the siphoning the Chinese have when it comes to their impact on the American market. They want us to be reliant on them. Trump, in his first term, said no more. Biden agreed. And now Trump is doubling down on China with the tariffs. You've got Mexico now cooperating. That's the thing, is because Mexico is cooperating. Canada is not cooperating. The Canadians are the ones that are really mad. Mexico right now only has, in terms of the imports into the United States, their exports, they're getting hit with like 40% of their exports are getting tariffed. 60% are not, because 60% fall under the North American U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement. So those are not being tariffed. Now, Trump could tariff those because there's an exemption to where if there's some type of security threat like fentanyl through Mexico, then he could tariff 100%, but he's not doing it. So that's why you don't really know exactly what Trump's doing with these tariffs. The key thing with this in terms of eliminating taxes for people making less than 150K would be bringing the budget down, which is a thing that I'm not sure Trump's going to do. I mean, you would have to look at the entitlements. You would have to look at defense spending. That's it. That's it. I mean, those are by far the biggest expenditures of the U.S. government is entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the military. And Trump said he wanted to lower the military budget over a 4-year period by 8%. Now, whether or not that happens with his big budget, we don't know. We'll have to see. But I think it's going to be pretty radical because this is a lot of things that Trump is trying to propose, whether it's the Doge dividend, whether it's eliminating state income taxes, possibly Republican governors eliminating state property taxes. Now you're talking about under 150K, there's no tax in general, and you can kind of do that when you're a capitalist society and you've got people making so much money, they're already contributing. So, I mean, you're talking about the bottom 50% of U.S. taxpayers contributing 3% in terms of tax revenue. So it's nothing. Like, how amazing would that be? People love this type of stuff. Whenever I talk about the Doge dividend, people are like, when are we getting that? When are we getting that? I mean, obviously people like free money and stuff like that. But, I mean, this is like for Trump, if he's somehow able to do this, it's tough because you're not going to be able to lower the budget that much to be able to make up for what this is. So the money is going to have to be either generated through tariffs or through some type of, curbing tax evasion. That would probably be the ways you do it. And that's what they're trying to say. And so we'll see if this ends up happening. He's talking about the gold card, the $5 million. Maybe that's a way to generate more revenue. I'm not a huge fan of the gold card personally. I mean, Trump's a businessman, though, and it does make sense if you're talking about really rich individuals investing into the United States. For a lot of these people, $5 million is basically nothing, and it's a way to generate more revenue for the U.S. government in a very easy way. I understand that. My concern is, do we really want foreigners with a bunch of money influencing us significantly, coming into the country, being able to have this gold card? But I understand what Trump is saying about that. But listen, this is just the big thing. If this happens, wow. Even if he's able to limit maybe cut the taxes in half for people under 150K, it's the first 150K. So, if you make 200K, you're only getting taxed for 50K. You're getting taxed for the money that you make 151 to 200K. And I'm not sure what tax bracket that would be. I'm guessing it probably wouldn't change very much. I guess you could raise higher the tax rates, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. I think this is going to be more through eliminating tax evasion, possibly overseas, as well as maybe the money generation from the tariffs if Trump wants to keep the tariffs in place. Because over time, the tariffs will work, and he is going to keep the tariffs in place in places like China. We know that. Whether or not the EU, with their 25% tariff, if that happens, you've also got the situation, obviously, with Canada and Mexico, our two biggest trading partners. All of this is going to be worked out, but this is so historic. There's never been anything close like this. What about the Doge dividend? Would the Democrats ever do that for the middle class, where we've eliminated? I mean, they exposed it with USAID. They're just like, Elon Musk is like, listen, and we've got all the paperwork. We have everything here. It's all on our website. And then they try and say, no, he's only saved like $6 billion. USAID they were funding 97% Democrats, 3% Republicans. That's our tax money going to Democratic causes. And so that's all been eliminated. And that's why we're getting the saving, and possibly we're getting $5,000. The middle class, they love Trump. What Trump has done for the middle class. What Democrat has tried to do this? Seriously. And then people say, well, it's not going to happen. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, we don't know that it might happen. You never know. So this is, we'll have to see, man. But it's just something that you would never see. 150K and lower, you're not taxed at all, because we have a capitalist society where the top 1% makes so much. And we're getting hit with all these companies, these billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies manipulating us with these offshore accounts, so that we're going to nip in the bud, and we're going to probably generate about $2 trillion in revenue off of stopping that. And that's going to help us because, you look at this, it's like the top 10%, they pay 73% of the taxes or whatever. It's pretty crazy. So that's why you can do things like this, or at least maybe pitch them. I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not, but This is some huge stuff. So guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.